Hello everyone, Gazam Utkarsh and I welcome you all to the session on Python fundamentals for data tasks. So guys, let's have a look at the agenda for this session. So prior to this session's agenda, we have covered so far functions and modular script. Now in this session, we shall be continuing with understanding the user input, how to perform typecasting in Python, and after having completed this, we shall move on to file handling and file handling operations, namely file opening, file closing, file reading, file appending, and file writing. So guys, I'm switching to the Jupyter screen. So guys, currently we are in the Jupyter screen. First of all, let's understand how to take user input. So Python provides us with a function called input that is used to accept user input. And as far as this input function is concerned, it returns a string. This user input returns a string. All right, let's understand this. Suppose I want to accept a name. All right, so how would I write? I can write like this, input, and then over here I can enter the prompt, enter your name. And once I have this name, I can simply print it. So this input function, what is it going to do? It is going to generate a text box जिसमें हम नाम लिख सकते हैं, right? Or not just name, I can type anything. So if I enter this, now enter your name over here. Let's say I'm going to write Utkarsh. And then once I print it, the output generated over here is Utkarsh. All right. So guys, this is how we can use the input. So this is the prompt. Input comes with a prompt. If we wish to pass, we can pass the prompt. Now, if I wish to check its data type, if I were to check its data type, so यहाँ पे suppose I'm writing maybe MS Dhoni. All right. Now, what is the data type obtained? The data type returned is a string. So इसका output irrespective हम क्या input देते हैं, it is always going to be a string. So if it is a string, let's try to enter something else. Suppose I'm using n as integer and I'm passing integer. I'm using the input function, right? Now if I print and next if I print type of n. So even if I enter a number, suppose I'm entering 45, what is the output obtained? It is still a string. Now if I enter true, this should be boolean, but the output obtained is a string. If I enter a float, the output obtained is string. So irrespective कि हम input में कौन सा data type pass करें, its output is always going to be a string. Now to deal with this issue, we have another concept in Python that is referred to as typecasting. What is the problem that we are facing with this input function? Whatever input that we pass in the input function, that is always returned as a string, irrespective that we have passed integer, float, boolean, or any other data type for that matter. The output returned is always going to be a string. Next, we have to understand typecasting. Now, typecasting is a method which is used to change from one data type to another. Over here, the input entered is, let's say float, but the data type returns is a string. So we don't want the variable to store a string, right? Rather, हमें यहाँ पे चाहिए, we want a float. So इसको convert करने के लिए, what is the option? We have to use typecasting. So first I'll show you, let's say string to integer typecasting. What can be done? So suppose I'm using a variable n1. I'll be using input function and then I'll wrap this input function in the integer function. So whatever is the input obtained, it is going to convert it into integer and then it is going to get stored in the n1 variable. Let me print this and let me print its type. So if I were to pass the input over here as maybe let's say 55. So 55 is an integer, but input function will read it as a string. But because of this integer function, this will typecast this string into integer. Let's see. So guys, now as we can see, the output obtained is an integer. Now, what if the input is not convertible to integer? Will it still work? No, it won't work. Let's check this. Now, instead of n1, if I pass n2, for n2, if I pass, let's say welcome. Now, welcome is not something that can be converted to integer. So directly we cannot expect integer typecasting on the string welcome. All right. So over here, it says invalid literal for integer with base 10. This is an error. Why are we getting an error? Because this welcome string cannot be converted to integer. Next, now over here I'm going to, let's say, convert integer string to float. So let's change this to n3. Alright, यहाँ पे हमने variable का नाम n3 रखा है, and then over here I need to use integer input. Instead of integer input, I'll be passing float. Now when I'm passing float, let's see what can I expect if I'm passing 7.2. Because of this typecasting function used float, the input obtained was an string. Then we are using the float function to convert it into float data type. All right, and this is how we have obtained, how we have converted string to float. Now, is it going to work on integers? Let's see. Means the way, let's say, input accepted as string cannot be converted to integer. Likewise, input accepted as string cannot be converted to float. But what about integer? Suppose I'm passing 47. So if I pass integer, integer can be converted to float. All right. So integer can be converted to float using float along with input as typecasting. But will it work the other way around? Let's see. Will it work the other way around? If I pass a float input, do I expect it to convert it into integer? Let's see. Now over here, the variable I'm using is n1a. I'll be passing a float. I'm expecting it to convert it to integer. Let's see. So if I pass maybe, let's say, 5.379, it is not getting converted to integer, right? What is the reason? Because if I were to convert this to integer, integer cannot accept dots or decimals, right? That's the primary reason we are not able to convert this input into integer. So maybe again over here we can write the reverse operation is not true. All right. So float can't be converted to integer using integer input as typecasting. What's the reason? The reason being, let's say, dot can't be, let's say, converted to integer. That's the primary reason. So guys, I hope you understand how to deal with user inputs and what's the role of typecasting, especially when it comes to dealing with, let's say, specified data types. Moving forward, we are supposed to discuss working with files. So let's understand this concept. Now, working with files in Python is a fundamental skill that allows us to read from and write to files stored on your computer, and Python provides us with built-in functions to handle these file operations easily. So guys, यहाँ पे हमारे पास बहुत सारे file operations हैं. Let's understand them one by one. So the first file handling operation is open. Open is simply used to open a file in different modes. And what are the different modes in we wish to open a file that are allowed? So we have read mode, we have write mode, we have append mode, then we have binary mode, and then we have read and write mode, right? So essentially we'll be concentrating on read, write and append mode. All right. So अब यहाँ पे अगर हमें read, write and append करना है, so let's understand कि ये हम कैसे कर सकते हैं. So first of all, I need to create a file. Over here, I'll be creating a file, and this is going to be a text file. Let me call this file as demo1.txt, right? So let's say I'm writing welcome to Python file handling. So maybe next I can write Python provides different functions for the same. All right, over here I've mentioned two different lines. I'm saving it. File name is demo1.txt. This is a text file. Now I wish to read this file using Python. So how do I read this? I can read this using the open function. So let's see how the open function behaves. So the first one is reading the file. Now see, if I'm reading the file, basically I'm opening the file, so I need to close the file as well. So I'll tell you over here what I can write f1 is equal to, f1 is a variable in which I'm opening the file. What is the file name? Demo1.txt. What is the mode into which I want to read the file? The mode is R. R indicates reading mode. Over here R indicates reading mode. Then if I print, let's say now I need to read the content of the file, right? So to read the content of the file, we have multiple functions such as read, we have read line, and we have read lines. Now read, let's say reads entire content of the file as the string. Read line reads one line at a time, and read lines reads all the line into a list. So one by one we'll get to understand each of these functions. Currently I've not closed this file. So if I write f1.read and then let's say f1.read, I'm just displaying this. See, so currently it gets to display the entire output. सारी की सारी lines हम यहाँ पे देख सकते हैं, right? Welcome to Python file handling. Then \n is representing line change. Then over here it says Python provides different functions for the same. Alright, so दो lines हमने लिखी थी उस file में, and we are clearly able to, let's say, display these two lines. Now because we have opened the file, to avoid any kind of a deadlock, we should ideally close the file as well. Once the reading is done, we can essentially close the file as well. So let me read it again. Alright, चलो यहाँ तक हमने read कर लिया, and then I'll be closing the file over here. So yes, I've closed the file. This avoids any kind of deadlock situation that may arise. Now I'm closing the file, I'm reading the file once again, just to show you that we can read n number of characters from this read function as well. Open, I'll be writing demo1.txt and then read. And over here I'm writing f2.read. How many characters do I want to read? Suppose I'm storing this in a variable called g1. In g1 I want to read just maybe, let's say, welcome is 7 characters, Python is 2, Python is 6 characters, and 2 is 2 characters, right? Okay, let me read, suppose I'm reading 15 characters and then I'm printing g1. See, so it says welcome to Python. So after 15 maybe I need to read 2 more characters. Yes, so guys, you can see we have read 17 characters. How come 17? Welcome, then space, then 2, then space, and then Python. This is a total of 17 characters. I'll show you. What is its length? The length is 17. So this is how read allows us to read n number of characters. Depending on the character size, the number of characters that we pass in the argument. Now, because we are supposed to close this function every time, right? We are supposed to, let's say, close the file that we have opened. So if I've opened f2, I need to close this like this, f2.close. So guys, this is how we have discussed how to work with open and read. Next, we'll be understanding how to work with read line, open and read line. So guys, if you want to, let's say, read, what is the purpose of read line? It reads all the lines, read line, it reads one line at a time. So it will only read one line at a time. All right, so how do I display this? So over here I can write open, then I can write demo1.txt, and then I'm writing the read mode. R indicates read mode. Then over here I need to store a variable. G2 is f3.readLine. All right, and then I'm writing G2. Over here I'm writing G2. See, over here, as we can see, it is reading only one line. Then I'm closing the file. All right, so only one line has been read. Now, what if I write G3, f3.readLine, and after G2 I'm writing G3. See, first it is reading the first line, then it is reading the second line. What is the purpose of read line? It reads one line at a time. And what is the purpose of read? It reads n number of characters, all right, at a time. So if we have read 17 characters so far, so if I again apply read, so it will continue from the 18th character. I'll show you this as well. Just have a look. So maybe over here I'm writing G2, f2.read, and in f2.read over here I'll be passing let's say maybe 8. All right, I want to read the next 8 characters, and then over here I'm writing g2. Next over here I'm writing g2. So as you can see, after having read 17 characters, we are reading the next set of 8 characters, right? And then maybe I can close the file. So I'll close it here. So it reads n character at a time. Now if I'm writing 8, it is not reading 8 from the beginning. It is not reading 8 from the beginning. So what does this line indicate? Read first 17 characters. All right, now if I write this, it says read first 8 characters, read next 8 characters. All right, this is how we are supposed to understand the operation of a read function, and we have seen the length is 17. We have also understood how to proceed with the read line function. Next we have read lines. So read lines read all the lines into a list. Now g2 I've already utilized, so maybe I'll be writing g3 and g4. All right, g3 g4, and then we'll proceed with read lines. Now so for read lines over here I'm writing f4 is open, then over here I'm writing demo1.txt, and then over here I'll be writing r. Then if I were to write read lines, so I want to display the entire data, f4 dot read lines. All right, and then I'll be printing data, and then I can simply close the file. Then I can simply close the file. All right, so just have a look. Read lines, what does it do? It reads all the lines of the file into a list. All right, it is reading all the lines into a file, from the file, all the lines of the file into a list. So I get to see both the files, right? I get to see both the lines over here. So this is how read differs from read line and read lines. Next operation that we have is write. Now write simply means there's a function called write that allows us to write the content into the file. Now there's another option that does not require us to close the file. So we have a with statement. Using the with statement, I'll explain how to proceed with the write statement, right? Write function. So with statement, what does it do? Let's understand this. It is the best practice to open the files. Why? Because it automatically closes the file even if an error occurs. So it comes with automatic closing. So let's see this with the help of an example. If I'm using this with statement, right, I don't need to use close. So over here I'm writing with open demo1 read as maybe file. All right, and then if I print, let's say I'm using a variable called w1. W1 is file dot read lines. All right, next I can print w1. So it stores the entire data. Now I do not need to close this file. With syntax does not require closing the file. All right, so this is how I can utilize the with statement. Now let's understand the how do we utilize the write function and the append function. So if I were to write, what is the purpose of writing? If I've opened a file, means I can either read it in the read mode or I can write some content to the file. So write will basically overwrite anything that is previously written onto the file. All right, if I'll use an pre-existing file, it is simply going to overwrite its content. Otherwise I can create a file from scratch and write content onto it. So इसका examples देखते हैं. So I'll show you two examples. So first example being, let's say, to create a new file from scratch and write content onto it. All right, तो ये काम हम कैसे कर सकते हैं? Let's see this. So अगर हमें ये implement करना है, so over here what can be done, let's say over here I'm writing maybe f7 is equal to open. What am I opening? I'm opening another file. Let me call this demo2.txt and I'm opening it in the write mode, correct? Over here I'm opening it in the write mode, and then I'm writing f7 dot let's say write, because this is a new file, this does not exist. So what do I need to write? Understanding the write function, and then f7 dot close. So a new file will be created over here. Currently I can show you that I don't have a demo1 file, demo2 file, right? I don't have a demo2 file over here. So this will be created over here. Let's see this. So guys, as you can see, there's a demo2 file recently created. When was it created? 12 seconds ago. It was created 12 seconds ago, right? So once I know this, so what can be done? Now if I can simply open this file, it says understanding the write function. So over here I've created a new file from scratch and I've written content onto it. Now the second option is to read a pre-existing file and overwrite its content. Alright, so let's see how this can be done. So for this purpose I'll be creating another file. I'm creating a text file. I'm calling this demo3. This is going to be demo3.txt, and in this demo3.txt, suppose I'm writing line 1, then I'm writing line 2, then I'm writing line 3 and line 4 as well. So I have 4 lines of content. This is present in demo3. So if I directly were to read the demo3 file, all right, so let me call this maybe s1 is open demo3.txt and then read. Now if I were to print s1 dot read lines and s1 dot close, so it displays all the content of this file. So this just confirms the fact that we do have some content in demo3. Now if I were to use a write function on top of demo3, so it will overwrite all the pre-existing content. Let's see this. So I'll be writing f8. f8 में हमने इस फाइल को ओपन किया. So I'm writing demo3.txt and then I'm writing let's say in the write mode, right? So because it is a pre-existing file, all its content will be overwritten. All previous content will be overwritten, and then maybe I can close the file. So if I just have a look, when was demo3 last updated? It was updated a minute ago, right? Now let's check this. See, now I've executed this. So if I were to open this again, what is it going to generate? Will it store line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4, or will it store just all previous content will be overwritten? Let's see. Here it says all previous content will be overwritten, right? So इसको दोबारा check कर लेते हैं. When was demo3 updated? It was updated a few seconds ago. Right? And as we can see, the file has been updated. So guys, I'm hoping the concept of writing content to a file is clear to everyone. This is how we go about writing the content to the file. Either we can, let's say, create a new file from scratch and write content onto it, or we can, let's say, read a pre-existing file and overwrite all its content. Then just like write, we have another operation which is referred to as append. So guys, let's understand the purpose of append. So guys, append is simply used to add the content at the end of the file without overwriting. So अगर हमें file में overwrite नहीं करना है, then we can use the append function. So append हम कैसे use कर सकते हैं? Let's see. So let me see onto which file we can apply this. So we do have this demo2, right? We do have this demo2. Demo2 में this is the content that we have. So इसी पे हम append apply कर लेते हैं. How do we apply this? So I'll be writing f9 is, first of all I have to open the file. This is demo2.txt, and then if I were to append content to this file, I'll be writing a. A is meant for appending, right? A is meant for appending, and then I need to write f9.write. So what is the previous content that I have in this file? I'll show you, and then maybe I can close f9.close. So first of all, I'll show you what is there in demo2. See, in this demo2 file, if I were to use a variable, let's call this s3, and then I'm printing s3.readLines, and then maybe s3.close. Okay, this will be in the read mode. Okay, demo2. Okay, let's say over here I'm writing some content written here, right? So this is some content in demo2. Now if I were to read this, see, some content is written over here. Now I'm writing, let's say, adding more lines to this file. I'm reading it in the append mode. Means we are not separately using the append function, it's just the mode. Alright, let's see the changes. So this is done. Now if I were to open this file again and check, let's call this s4, this is s4, and this is demo2.txt, and read. Now do we have more content into this file than what was present previously? Yes, we do have more content, right? Now because we were not being cautious, I have not added any space in the beginning, so this line is added in the same line. So let me do one thing. I'm overwriting the content. How? I'm writing it s3.write some content in the file. Alright, and then I'm writing, let's say I'm simply closing this file. Correct. Now if I were to read demo2, first let's read the demo2. So maybe I can read it like this. Some content is in the file. Now in F9, I'm adding another line of code in demo2 using the append mode. So what is the line? Adding more lines to this file, and then I'm closing it. So now if I were to open this file again, as we can see, this is the first line which was previously added, and on top of it I've added another line using the append mode, right? So this is how we can use append mode as well. So guys, we have understood the concept of file handling. We have discussed these, let's say, functions, right? Not the append one, but the remaining functions and the statement. So we have discussed open function, read function, read line, read lines, write, close, and the with statement. So guys, that brings us to the end of this session. I'll be switching to the PPT. So guys, to summarize, in this session we have discussed how to handle user input, how to proceed with typecasting based on the user input, and how to handle different file operations such as let's say file opening, closing, reading, writing, appending, and utilizing different functions such as read, read lines, read line, open, close, and utilizing the with statement. Guys, now in the next session we shall be proceeding with module 2. Essentially we shall be discussing list, tuple, sets, and dictionary. Thank you.